Ever feel like you're your own worst enemy? You've got the ambition, you've got the intelligence, but something invisible keeps holding you back. If that's you, you're not alone, and it's not your fault. These self-sabotaging patterns are incredibly common, especially among the smartest people. They often disguise themselves as strengths, like being thorough or having high standards, but they're actually what's keeping you stuck. In this video, we're going to uncover the 5 most common self-destructive habits that trip up even the brightest minds. And more importantly, I'll give you a practical, one-step action plan for each, so you can start breaking the cycle today. Let's get started. So what's the first habit that often holds us back from achieving our goals? Perfectionism, that relentless pursuit of flawlessness. Now let's be clear. This isn't about healthy high standards or striving for excellence. It's about an insidious inner critic, a shield that pins you down, making any real progress feel utterly impossible. It's the enemy of good enough. Perfectionism whispers in your ear, telling you, if it's not going to be absolutely perfect, then why even bother starting? For smart, capable people, the fear of criticism, the potential for failure, feels like a direct threat to your very identity, to your sense of self-worth. It attacks the core of who you believe you are. So you endlessly polish, obsessing over minor details, revise the same things over and over, and ultimately stall, finding any excuse to avoid moving forward, hiding from the perceived risk of being judged, scrutinized, or found wanting. Maybe you spend hours agonizing over a single sentence, trying to make it absolutely perfect, or endlessly tweak a project, caught in a loop of revisions, never actually finishing and releasing it into the world. The gap between your idealized vision of perfection and the reality of your current work becomes a chasm of overwhelming anxiety, a source of constant stress and self-doubt. Ultimately, you trade real progress for the false illusion of safety and control. Ironically, despite all the effort and agonizing, perfectionism rarely, if ever, leads to better results. In fact, it more often leads to burnout, that state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion, missed deadlines, because you're too busy trying to make everything perfect to actually finish anything on time, and shrinking your world, limiting yourself to only what you already know you can ace, avoiding any challenge or opportunity for growth. The world might outwardly praise perfectionism, admiring the seemingly flawless results, but they rarely see the underlying anxiety, the constant stress, and the sheer exhaustion that fuels it. So how do you break free from this debilitating cycle of perfectionism? Try implementing the 50% rule. Pick one specific task that you've been actively avoiding because you feel overwhelmed by the need to make it perfect, and commit to doing just half of it. That's it. Aim for messy, deliberately incomplete, and just good enough. Set a timer for a focused 25 minutes of work, and when the timer goes off, stop working, regardless of where you are in the task. The primary goal here is to actively prove to yourself through direct experience that imperfection is not only survivable, but often completely inconsequential. This simple exercise retrains your brain, gradually shifting your perspective to value consistent action and tangible progress over the endless pursuit of an unattainable ideal. Your one small step. Pick a task, do just half of it, and consciously let it be imperfect. Remember, progress consistently beats perfection every single time. Next up, procrastination, perfectionism's evil twin. It's not about laziness or poor time management. It's about avoiding uncomfortable feelings. When a task triggers anxiety, boredom, or self-doubt, your brain offers an escape distraction. You get temporary relief, but the task and the stress just grows. For high achievers, procrastination often looks productive. You do less important tasks to avoid the one that matters, but it's a vicious cycle. Procrastination is a form of self-harm, trading short-term comfort for long-term pain. You end up choosing more suffering just to avoid a few minutes of discomfort. The solution? The 5-minute rule. When you feel the urge to procrastinate, promise yourself you'll work on the dreaded task for just 5 minutes. Set a timer. After 5 minutes, you can stop, no guilt. But usually, starting is the hardest part. Once you begin, momentum takes over. This rewires your brain. You learn that discomfort is manageable and you take back control. Next time you want to procrastinate, just say 5 minutes. That's the start. The third habit that can hold you back: analysis paralysis. It's a common trap, especially for those who strive for excellence. Overthinking every single decision, no matter how small. You get stuck in endless research, lost in a sea of data, constantly pondering what-ifs and potential outcomes. The possibilities seem infinite, and as a result, you never actually move forward. You're frozen, paralyzed by the sheer weight of information. Smart people, driven by intellect, often crave certainty above all else. They want to be absolutely sure before committing. So you gather endless information, accumulating data points like a collector amassing treasures. You're hoping, perhaps subconsciously, for a risk-free choice, a guaranteed path to success. But the truth is, more data rarely brings clarity. In fact, it often has the opposite effect. It just leads to more confusion, more conflicting viewpoints, and ultimately, more overwhelm. The fear of making the wrong choice, of taking a misstep, ultimately outweighs the very real cost of inaction, of standing still while opportunities pass you by. You end up admiring the complexity of the problem, marveling at its intricacies, instead of actually rolling up your sleeves and solving it. Here's a common example. You want to start a side business, a passion project you've been dreaming about, but instead of launching, you spend months meticulously comparing different software options, getting lost in feature lists and pricing plans, and you're constantly reading books, devouring every piece of advice on entrepreneurship you can find. All this without taking a single real tangible step towards launching your business. You're still at the starting line. Remember, the world rewards action, those who dare to try and to do. Not necessarily the best plan, perfectly crafted on paper, but never put into motion. The cost of not deciding, of remaining in a state of perpetual analysis, is very often far greater than making a good enough choice, a decision that's not perfect, but allows you to move forward, and then adjusting, adapting, and refining your approach as you go, learning from your experiences. So how do you break free from the clutches of analysis paralysis? Start by using a decision deadline, and complement that with a strict data diet. For any decision, big or small, set yourself a short, defined time frame. 24 hours for the smaller, less impactful decisions, and perhaps a week for the bigger, more significant ones. Limit yourself to a maximum of 3 trusted sources of information, or seek out just 2 trusted opinions from advisors or mentors. When the deadline hits, no matter what, decide, make a choice. The point isn't to achieve perfection, because perfection is often the enemy of progress. The real goal is building your decision-making muscle, strengthening your ability to choose and move forward. Because action, even imperfect action, creates clarity. Pick a decision you've been putting off, set your deadline right now, and just choose. Don't overthink it, just choose. Now let's talk about imposter syndrome, the feeling that you're a fraud despite your achievements. It hits high achievers hardest because you're acutely aware of what you don't know. You set impossible standards, and when you succeed, you credit luck, not your ability. When you struggle, you internalize it as proof you're not good enough. On the outside, you look capable. Inside, you're waiting to be exposed. You overwork, avoid asking for help, and can't enjoy your success. This isn't humility, it's a cognitive distortion. It holds you back from taking risks and owning your accomplishments. How do you fight back? With evidence. Start a brag file or evidence log. Every time you get positive feedback, write it down or screenshot it. When imposter thoughts creep in, review your file. Don't argue with your feelings, counter them with facts. Over time, you'll build a more accurate, compassionate view of yourself. This isn't arrogance, it's reality. Collect your wins, review them, and let the evidence speak louder than your doubts. The final habit is burnout, an often hidden epidemic among high achievers. It's more than just feeling tired. It's a profound exhaustion caused by constant self-imposed pressure to perform. Burnout is driven by a toxic mix of perfectionism, procrastination, overthinking, and imposter syndrome, all feeding off each other and draining your energy. High achievers often equate their self-worth with constant productivity, always striving for the next milestone. Rest feels like failure, and the feeling of enough remains out of reach. You sacrifice sleep, relationships, and joy, believing it's just a temporary hustle. But over time, you lose your spark and passion. Burnout is your mind and body's way of saying, enough. Ignoring it can harm your health, relationships, and career. The solution isn't working harder, it's redefining your relationship with rest. See rest as a necessity, not a luxury. Schedule breaks, block time for relaxation, and treat it as essential. Even short pauses can restore your energy and focus. Make rest non-negotiable. This is how you build a sustainable path to success, one that lets you thrive without sacrificing your well-being. There you have it. The 5 self-destructive habits that hold even the brightest people back. These aren't signs of weakness, they're your strengths turned against you. By recognizing and understanding them, you can reclaim your superpowers and use them to move forward. Be compassionate with yourself. Change is a process and you've already started. Share in the comments which habit resonated most with you. There's no judgment here. If you found this message valuable, your support helps us reach a wider audience. Please consider liking this post and sharing it with anyone who might benefit. To ensure you don't miss future content on self-empowerment, subscribe to our channel. Our next video is available here. Thank you for your time and support.